Lars, this was by, I think, most people's measure, a successful season for you. Close to 500, but many people didn't think it would be that. Does it get, what is it now for you? What's next for you with this group? How big is the challenge now to go to the next level? Opportunity abounded this year. Is it different next year and where people are more set in roles? You have a better idea of some of these guys, or how do you look at the next stage here?
Yeah, well, I have a very good feel for our group right now. But it's almost like when I took the job at the beginning here and back in June, when you're asking expectations and what are we going to look like, I said, I don't know. You know, there's going to be change. There always is change. And it's the NHL. Very rare do you come in with the exact same group. Now, how big that change is going to be, I'm not sure. We know we want to get better. We know we got to add certain areas. You know, I think this year was huge as far as growth, opportunity. We talked about that a lot. Development, culture, all those things that we wanted to make sure was in place. And there was a lot of learning curves for a lot of guys, for our leadership group. They had a new staff. You know, even though I was here, I was in a new role, and they have 2 new assistants. And so you start putting all these things together, and yeah, I have a very good idea of what we are, who we are. I have a lot of thoughts on where I'd like to grow to, where I'd like to add, but what you want and what you can get are 2 different things. And so this is going to be the ongoing conversation process here as we go into the summer.
Brad, how big is the core of this team? Because it seems to me from afar there are more like-minded players, and it seemed to come out in the interviews on the weekend how they talked about this is the best room I've ever been in. Has that made it easier in the transition? And is that 4 or 6 guys, or now is it 10, 12, 15 guys that are pulling together?
You look at the change coming into the season, and you're not sure what the chemistry is going to be like. What we subtracted, right? You lose the leadership qualities of the Felinos, you know, Seth Jones, Savard, even a guy like Del Zotto, who is a 700-plus game type guy. You know, Cam Atkinson, another guy. So, and you introduce some guys, the leadership roles. So, you're not sure how the room's going to be. You really don't. And us as a staff, we were watching that very closely. You know, I think that was something. How are these guys going to gel? What's it going to look like? How are the leaders going to do? How do we help them? And you could see it. You could see it early on. We got to a good start. You know, I've had many questions, like any surprises. You know, it was unexpected, and you know that was the surprise. That if there's one thing, when we started 12-6, to me that was the surprise, a good surprise, but that was the unexpected right away. So then, how do you handle success? You know, and being a real young team, and how are the leaders going to handle that? So, as far as the number of what that core looks like, I think we could pick some key guys out real easily and go that's core. And then there's maybe some tweeners, you know, where are they at? But so I can't give you that number of how many guys will be back. What are we looking to do? Because in the NHL, and you know, we're going to go back as a staff. We're going to talk with management. They have a plan in place. We're going to talk about, you know, our thoughts. They'll get our ideas, and then they're going to try and build a team to get better. So sometimes there's unexpected trades. You know, nobody thought Cam would get traded, and that happened very quickly. And so, and all in the thoughts of trying to better the team and move forward and improve. And so, the hard part about this business is that room. They really cared about each other. You could feel it. And as the season went along, and as we went through, you know, the downs, you know, and that's when you really find out about your group, how they handled themselves in the struggles. And these guys really pulled together. Not that we got the wins that we wanted, but how they carried themselves together, how they did pull the rope together. Practice habits, the push. You know, you look at the growth in a lot of our players this year, it was tremendous, I thought. But there's still a long ways to go. You look at the improvement that's going to be required. You look at the teams that are in this year. We have to get better. We have to. And that might mean losing losing some of these real key core guys. You never know. And so I don't have a crystal ball I'm not going to play GM. I'm going to coach the team that they give me. They ask questions. I'm going to give them my honest opinion, and we'll see where that ends up. So around probably late July, we'll have a pretty good idea of what we're going to look like.
Along those lines, I guess we'll go with Patrick Laine is a pending free agent. We know that's not your area of expertise to bring him back or anything like that, but if he were to be here, long term, how much would you enjoy that as far as him being part of that kind of core group?
Yeah, the first thing about Patrick, he's a special player. These guys don't come around very often. He's got an ability to score at a very elite level. We saw it this year. We got a taste of that. The thing I loved about Patty was his commitment to the team, how he had a purpose to try and change. He had a real want, how he integrated with his teammates. We all know the year before didn't go as planned for him, for our group, everybody. There was a very dark cloud around the organization, just the feel of it, right? So, and I think Patty felt that. I think, we all want these guys to come in and have an instant impact, and I'm sure nobody wanted that more than Patrick. So when it doesn't go your way, we forget that he was 22. We forget that he's never gone through statistical disappointment like that. When he joined Winnipeg, they had a pretty good core, good team, and he was able to integrate and not have to be the guy. So you look at him and his growth, and he's a guy that grew a ton for me, and not just in the goals. It wasn't the 19 goals in 22 games. That's great. We need it. We want it. But his commitment was very evident. And to me, there's still so much more room to grow for him in a real positive way. At 24 years old, you look at him and where his game could end up, because he's not even close to being in his prime for me. So, yeah, I mean, as a coach, that excites you. You see a guy like that, he's 6'5", can score you, in an 82-game schedule, he's on pace for just under 40. And you see that he's putting the work, and you see that he's integrating with his teammates better. You see that he made change. Change requires change. And if you don't change, nothing happens. So he made a very conscious effort to change in a lot of different areas of his life, while going through a tremendous tragedy in his life, too. We forget about that, the human element of what he just went through, losing his father, who was very important in his life. So he's a guy that I think he excites a lot of people, not just me, management, staff, I think the city. And, judging by my exit interview with him, he really likes Columbus. So we'll see where it goes.
Brad, how have you handled or developed yourself in letting young players play through mistakes while also balancing the fact that you need to win games?
Yeah, it's tricky, right? I don't like the word handled, but how do we grow into that? How do we, what's that line? How do we, and I think every guy's different in that line and what that looks like. You could go through a long list of guys where the Jack Roslovics to the Bjorkstrands to the Werenskis to Cole Sillinger, who's 18. Like, what is that line? How do you free them up to be the best player they can, but make sure they're staying within the foundation, the structure, the commitment to competitiveness, and what that looks like. And handled, I don't know how we handle it. I think how we're growing into that, I think that's still in progress right now. I think there was tremendous strides from a lot of our players in their offensive games. I think if you asked our players, how I was coaching them, and more importantly, our staff was coaching them, I was very vocal about, you can make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. It's a game of mistakes. But we're going to coach you through some of this, and there's some boundaries you can't cross, and if it goes too far, then it's going to cost you ice time. And I think individually they figured that out, what that line looked like. They're smart enough to understand some guys get more rope than others. I don't think I have to coach that. I think they know if a guy's got 1,000 games in the league, his rope's probably a little bit longer with 800 points. And it's Jake Voracek, if you don't know. Those guys get more rope, but they've earned that rope. You know, they've earned that opportunity to, and that doesn't mean I'm not coaching him too, because I do. We have great conversations about that and trying to grow his game. So that's a work in progress. We're a young team, and we're going to continue to grow in that, and they're going to get to know me better. I'm going to get to understand them better, how to coach them better, how to push them, and that's really the exciting part of this journey right now.
Brad, one of the unknowns going into the year was a head coach. What did you learn in your first year? I don't want you to assess it, but what was that first year like for you? And I'm also curious if you reached out to any of your mentors, specifically the guy you worked with here for a long time as a head coach.
Yeah, you're spot on. I'm not going to assess that's not my place to assess my job or what I did. It was awesome. I loved it. I was so blessed to be able to coach and be part of a staff that got to coach a group like that really truly cared for each other. Yes, I reached out to several guys, and not just in the sport. I've been very fortunate to meet some head coaches that had success in different sports and talk to them, how they handled situations when they were done, when they got fired, what it looked like, the struggles they went through early on in their career. I think it's important not just to stay in your own sport if you can, and I was very, very fortunate to meet some guys that I have a tremendous amount of respect for and have conversations and some FaceTime with them, talk to them about that. So, yeah, I talk with Torts, absolutely. He's a guy, first and foremost, he's a dear friend of mine for the rest of my life. I separate hockey. He's a tremendous human being, but he has a ton of experience too. So, yes, I would check in and pick his brain. I think one thing I've learned in this game is be humble. I don't have all the answers. I'm going to make mistakes, but to grow, I think you need to ask questions. I think you need to lean on guys that have been around the game, and that's why I hired Craig Hartsburg, to be honest with you. That was a guy that his name came up early in the process, and I was excited to add him to our staff because he's got a tremendous amount of experience. We've had some awesome meetings as a staff with him and him giving his thoughts. So, every year you talk to the Barry Trotzes of the world that have won and been around forever, or the Mike Babcocks, or any of these guys with success. They're always trying to grow. As soon as you flatline and get stagnant, you fall behind. And these aren't. There's no gimmicks to it. I said it when I took this job. There's no substitute for experience. There's just not. And so I just finished my 25th year of pro hockey. I'm 44 years old, turning 45 here in June. Still a very young man, Portsy. And so it's another year of experience for me. And we went through things. And some things I expected, some things I didn't. But I'm going to sure try and grow from it. I'm going to reach out and have conversations and, just meet with my staff, get thoughts, things we want to possibly change, what we want to look like, what do we want to look like as an organization, as a team, our foundation, were we happy with that? These are conversations we have constantly. So it was an incredible year. It was. And take out the wins and losses, we all want to do better. We all want to be playing today. This is the day. I don't want to be doing this. I'd rather be doing this, telling you who's in my lineup, who's starting, but we're not. And that's where we want to grow to. That's where we need to get to. But I'm excited about the future. I am. I think we have some really good players in there, but we have some tremendous people, which I'm excited about.
Some of the veteran guys that we talked to on Saturday said that maybe the next step is the hardest one. Things like expectations come into play. These things don't always go in straight lines, things like that. In your experience, is that something that is true, that you can have these young players kind of play well when the pressure's off, but as these things build, it can be a real tough thing to make that next step?
Yeah, I think, there was tremendous growth, even in basically a 500 season, as far as wins, losses, and win percentage. But you bet that when pressure's a real thing, and when it starts to get pressure, you don't know how they're going to react. So that's going to be another situation we're going to go through as a group. Hopefully, as we, you said it just a second ago, that trajectory of improvement is never a straight line. It's not rarely. It's never a straight line. It's always, there's ups and downs. But like I've talked with a lot of our players, those downs, those tougher times, that's the opportunity to grow. It is. that's where you pinpoint the growth. It's not when we were 12-6 and rolling. It's when we went to St. Louis on a back-to-back and had a good first period, and then they took over the game. And then we went 2 nights later in Nashville, and they were on a run, and they're a playoff team. And then we went to Dallas, who was on a 7-game point or win streak, and we lost there. And then we went to Washington and lost there. To me, that was the punch in the nose that, whoa, we haven't arrived yet. Now all of a sudden we're 12-10. So when you look at that, how are we going to handle that? Well, we had to go through it. You can talk to Cole Sillinger about it as an 18-year-old or even a ton of our young players, but you have to go through it. And that's the patience part of it. And everybody loves patience now, and they love it in the summer. But when the season starts, patience goes out the window, and it's like, well, what's going on with your group? We got some things we need to learn. We got to go through. And we went through a lot of it. And so that trajectory, it's generally like this. Now how we get to here, that's a bumpy road. It always is. And you can't fast track it. I said it just a bit ago about there's no substitute for experience. And some guys handle it different than others. There's some surprises, and there's some guys it's going to take longer. I can't tell you who those guys are going to be, but as a staff, I know we're going to work to try and help those guys and grow them and get there as quick as we can, but it has to make sense for them too. So there's a road ahead, but I said it just with Dave, it's exciting.
Right, when you get together as a coaching staff to talk about changes for next season, you probably already have in some way, is the goals against the biggest issue that you'll try to correct this offseason?
Yeah, well, that's the one that stands out right away, right? And so here's what you always fight. Is it personnel? Is it systematic? Is it, you get challenges all the time from my general manager. We talked about early in the season, and that's part of his job, and that's us. And so that's what we have discussions about. We made some changes. Let's just go with our D zone. The year before, we were 27th in the league in goals against, and near the bottom in all these important categories like passes to the slot and all these fancy analytics, right? And then we lose almost 2,000 games of experience on the back end. You lose to Seth Jones, Savvy, Delzato. Delzato was 700 plus games. I believe Savvy was 600 plus games. And now you have guys that are coming in. We had 10 defensemen coming in the lineup. I think we had 4 that were over 100 games of experience. Gavrikov had 124 games coming this year. I know he seems like he's 35, but he's not, right? He carries himself. He plays like it. Zach was our number one guy at 335 games coming in the season. And he's first time wearing a letter, first time being the number one defenseman, if you want to call it that. You have Kukin, who was in and out of our lineup, but he had 120-some games in 5 years. So you're averaging 20, you know what I mean? So what we need to do is we're going to look at all of it. I'm going to look at, because I look at all the teams. We look at their goals and what are they doing? Are they man-to-man? Are they zone? Are they shrinking, going to a man-to-man? We go. That's our job. That's what we do. But you also got to go, that's the patience part, right? Is it the system? Do we need to make changes? Can these guys grow into the system? We made a change, not just a change, because we feel like the game is progressing into another way. The defense are so active in the zone. I don't know if there's a right or wrong way, but I do know that it has to get better. And how we're going to get there, we're going to talk about all these things. Is it personnel? Do we need to add some more experience back there? And, Harry he had little over 200 games, and he barely played, right? He's in the minors. And so when you start to peel it back, guys are playing 33 games. Andrew Peak played 82 games this year. I would have lost that bet. I would have. And that is a great thing to say, right? There's a guy, there's growth. There's a guy that, for me, puts himself in a conversation. That guy can play every day in the NHL. Where it shapes out, I don't know. Is he a top pairing D? We'll see. If we get good enough, hopefully not. That means we're in a really good situation. So these are conversations, and I'm going to watch playoffs just like you guys are, and I'm going to watch the systems. I'm going to watch as a fan first, because I think the first 2 games it's just chaos on ice. To be honest with you, I love the start of it. It's just like a NASCAR race and a crash derby all in one. But but then it settles out, and then you start to see who rises to the top, and then we'll look at foundation and what they're doing and how they built their team, the size of these guys, the experience of these guys, you know. So there's a lot of factors that go into, are we going to work on our goals against? Yes, we scored. We got to keep them out. But there's a long process to get to that too, and what that's going to look like. And depending on how we build our team and what it looks like, it might be systematic change, it might be personnel based, but we're certainly going to look at that and try to address that 100%.
As you look back on Cole Sillinger's season, how does it compare to what you expected, or did you even have any expectations of what it would look like for him at 18 to be in the league a full year?
Yeah, he's at 18 years old, what he did is that's a pretty special year. You know, we joked about it early on, but I was actually very serious. I tried many times to get him out of here. I did. I said, I need to get you out of here, but he wouldn't go away. You know, he would not go away, this kid, and made our team. And if you talk to him, he had a lot of ups and downs too. It's a lot of peaks and valleys. And you know, and you talked about that trajectory curve. He's young, but he's one of the guys that we're very excited about, obviously. To finish the year, I think he played 79 games, 30-plus points, 16 goals. Man, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year in Traverse City that that's where that kid's going to be, I don't know. I probably would have lost that bet too, you know. But then you get to know him. You know, you get to know Cole a little bit, and you get to know his maturity for an 18-year-old. You get to know his mindset. He's ahead of his years that way. Now, we're going to have to be patient with him too. You know, he's coming as a 19-year-old next year, and now there's expectations. That changes. This year was kind of a free roll. You know, a lot of first-year guys get the free roll. You know, it doesn't matter if you're first round or late first round, early, everyone, well, it's his first year. Well, now he's set a bar for himself. But what I like about Cole, and I think he has a very good understanding of himself, is his foundation is solid. I think he knows where it needs to be. I'm going to keep him to that foundation. I'm going to keep my thumb on that to make sure he knows his ability to impact the game may not just be, he might end up with 10 goals next year, but make huge strides in other areas. You know, so stats are a dangerous thing, but I think he's got the right mindset. I think he, you know, one of his last comments to me is that he's coming in with the same mindset to try and make the team next year. I like his chances right now, but I believe him. When he says those words, I believe him, and he's going to put the work in, and he's going to come with that mindset, and he's going to be a better player.
One more for Lars. Jeff.
You've lost so many leaders, so many players with a lot of experience coming into this year, as you've kind of previously mentioned, which meant you had a whole new leadership group. I think you knew you had the right guys there, but still it was new for a lot of those guys, and even Boone moving up to being a captain for the first time. But just as you look back on this year, do you like the way that they grew into those roles? Because you talk about, you know, the way this team kept battling, the way that, you know, the comeback victories, the nice things they've all said about each other in the locker room. Do you like the way that group has kind of shepherded them going forward?
Well, yeah, there was growth there, you know, and have they arrived as leaders? Have we arrived as coaches? Have we arrived? No, I think we're all growing, and that's the exciting part is to grow with a youthful team like this. And I'll say it again, there's tremendous people in that room. So as far as leaders and Zach, you know, we're always going to want more from Zach, you know, as far as, you know, he almost had 50 points. He's playing through injuries, but it's the first time he's been a leader. It's the first time he's taken 27-plus minutes tonight. He's the number one guy. So what the exciting thing with him is I think there was a tremendous amount of growth, and there's a whole lot more for him to grow, and he's navigating through it too. Well, how do I do this as a number one guy? How do I do it as a leader? Bjorkstrand, you know, same thing. Wearing an A lot of ups and downs, and you know, career year and goals, minus 33. So we got to bring that world together. But what I like about him is he's not satisfied with the year because he had 28 goals. You know, when I talk to him, yeah, that's fine, but we need to get better here. And there's things that we can do and focus. And me as a coach, I can help. You know, and so there's going to be a lot of growth there. But now he's had a year under his belt. What that feels like, what it was, his role in the room, what that's going to look like. Boone Jenner, tremendous year. You know, tremendous year, and we lose him at a very, very key time. You know, the poor guy, he's coming to me in tears saying, I can't do it anymore. How old are you, Portsy? I didn't expect that. Okay, sorry. Yes. But he cares. Tremendous amount. He cares, and it was killing him. He couldn't go play. So, so for growth, huge growth. Gus Nyquist, 82 games. Another guy. You know, he missed the whole season. Comes back, plays 82. Are you kidding me? And huge growth there. So our leaders, they help push that room through a lot of, there were some real tipping points in there where it could have gone bad, where the losing could have got out of control, where the practice habits could have got real lax, the competitiveness could have gone out the window, and they didn't let it go. And for that, I'm so impressed. But I'm also excited about now they have a year under their belt. Now they know kind of the grind of it, what their role looks like in the room, and where I think they can get to and grow with this group. And it's exciting. It is.
Thanks, Lars.
Yep. Good.
Thanks, everybody.